Super wild card weekend, and we are just banding together, unorganized and scrambling.
The
So,
best way, baby. I love that.
if the people could only see us 15 seconds before we press live,
Yeah, we're sort of like the Philadelphia Eagles right now.
it's the only time I ever hear Ron swear.
Have you heard me swear?
Did
Ever?
Just the way you said it sounded vulgar.
Live from the tennis court at Super Wild Card Weekend.
All right. Well, anyway, hey, I guess we just got news, guys, on Alabama. Looks like they got a new coach.
It looks that way.
Washington's Guy DeBoer is about to sign there, and I guess that means that it has absolutely nothing to do with our show, but it sounded good.
Well, it's an NHL coaching vacancy. They won't be filled by him.
Or not that DeBoer. Although I don't know if he's related. 7 coaching vacancies, guys. We got one done today. It's all over. Belichick's replacement has been named. No surprise because it was in the contract. But Gerard Mayo and I guess they couldn't hold the Mayo for an extra day, could they? I don't know why I had to say that, but had to get out of my system. So what do you think of that? Not what I said.
You really had to punish us there.
Exactly. I don't know what that does for their team. I mean, he may turn out to be the next Vince Lombardi, but I think he's got a better chance to be the next Nick Lombardi.
Well, give the guy a chance. He's part of the system. He was drafted by him, and he's been there a long time. And if you look at the long history of coaches before Belichick, they've had some, and let's see what happens there.
Yeah, another defensive coach, too.
It's hard to replace legends, especially in college. In the NFL, sometimes you can replace a Landry with a Jimmy Johnson and stuff like that. Well, this had to be in the works for, I know it's written in the contract, but we're talking about midway through the season. The organization knew there had to be a change.
I think there's also a possibility here that Robert Kraft feels, just as you said, Ron, it's not easy to replace a guy with some big name, but anybody has to take over for a legend. This might be a good situation for the short term to say, let's just see how it goes. And if it doesn't, we stink anyway. It doesn't really matter. They're not going anywhere for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So maybe this is just a nice, smooth transition for them.
I think it's a perfect situation for him. I don't know who would want that New England job otherwise. It was he knew this was coming. It was part of his contract. So this was pre-planned. It was funny because I'm listening to promotions and the guy's talking about, well, they're going to have to, do this big coaching hunt and this, that, and the other and blah, blah, blah. No, sorry, buddy. They had this all figured out ahead of time.
No, they might need a GM hunt, though. That's they need to come up with somebody who can actually pick players that last more than 10 minutes on this team.
Yeah, so this is, I didn't even have to say it, Ted, because you said it. You probably heard me talk about the draft more times than anybody. So you knew what was coming. The problem was player personnel.
Yep.
And this is their chance. The coaching hire is one thing, but hiring the right GM is going to decide how quick a fix this is going to be.
And this is the biggest problem with Belichick's future as well. If he has to be in control of player personnel, I don't know who wants him in that respect. He might be the most brilliant defensive mind and adjustment guy who ever lived. But if you don't have any players, you better adjust to another job. So I don't know.
Well, I will say this, where he goes and what role he plays will have an impact on what wager I play on his team.
Yeah, that's for sure. And by the way, I don't think realistically, if you look at every single opening, which one of those are truly good for Bill Belichick? They're all a little wonky in a way, maybe Washington, TBD, and we don't know what their GM situation is, and they got a ton of money. But outside of that, I don't see any of these other teams where he's really a fit.
Yeah, maybe this is good for Ben Johnson that he's not the highly courted coordinator, so maybe he'll be insulted enough to stick around for another year until he is.
Yep. Well, anyway, so we had one coaching vacancy close today, but we still have 7 more to go. And one of the guys who left, I think, is the biggest surprise is Pete Carroll. The only reason he's not is his age. Outside of that, I think it's a surprise. I think he's done a pretty damn good job with his team the last 2 years with, a lot of new faces, specifically on defense. And with a Geno Smith that he's gotten the most. You talk about squeezing what's left out of a lemon. I mean, whatever he got out of Geno, you got to give him and his staff credit. But I got a cut from Pete Carroll that I want to play here, Cris, because he talks about how fun is a really important part of trying to make every team enjoy their work. So after he discussed the fun, he also discussed being spoiled as a winner at USC and how hard it is to lose any time after that. Play Pete, please.
I realized back in SC, that we had something special, and because we were continuing to, we won so much they ruined me for life. It's hard to imagine when you can win 3 straight years, every game, keep coming back, summer times, the off season, all that stuff, and it wrecks you. I did want to say this too. There's never enough wins. There's just never enough. You win 15, you won 16, you won 16, you won 17, you won them all. And that's it's a curse, but it's also the blessing because it drives you in such manner. So, as a coach, there's not enough wins, and we know right now there's not enough wins this season, and it's a big challenge about doing this work.
If the Bears had won and you guys had got in again, do you think you'd be in this position? Not making a
Not today.
Nope, that would have been it. So again, to me, he was the biggest surprise. Vrabel was right there as well, but I thought Pete was. I thought he was going to be around for at least one more year. He still has the enthusiasm, still has the juice, as he likes to call it, to want to do this job. It will be interesting to see if anybody actually signs him immediately, within the next few weeks, or if he's just going to go off into the sunset because he doesn't fit anywhere. One place he might fit, although again, would rather have an offensive head coach, but Pete and the Chargers makes a little sense.
That's what I was going to say. He seems like the perfect fit for the Chargers as like a third choice. He wants to stay on that West Coast, I would imagine, and he certainly has enough energy for another coaching gig for another 3 to 5 years. So
yeah, I don't know about 5 years.
Won't surprise me.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's the perfect fit because I think the perfect fit is Harbaugh. He's what, you don't like Harbaugh with the Chargers?
That guy sucks. He should just stay where he is.
He sucks. All right. Well, hey, you got a nice national championship out of your home state. You got to be thrilled with that.
Right. Pete's motto was always compete. And he fought hard to stay in that job as long as he could. And he was building something maybe not quite like the Legion of Boom, but you're talking about 3 guys in the secondary, well thought of guys that are in their first or second year, 4 offensive linemen that are in their first or second year, a continual rebirth of running backs, no worry there. They got their succession plan at wide receiver with the Ohio State wide receiver. He came on, he had a fine year. He's teamed so far with Lockett and Metcalf. He just doesn't get to see it through. And
right.
It's now John Schneider's job to continue to build the roster. That was the perfect marriage. And perfect marriages in sports and in business, they don't last forever like you hope in life with your husband and wife and stuff like that. But it's tough because now John Schneider, I tried desperately to find some tape on John Schneider, but I haven't seen.
No, he hasn't. I don't think he's spoken.
Because I want to hear it from his perspective, because those two worked really well in building this roster.
I wonder if they made any phone calls to Mr. DeBoer at Washington. It would have been interesting. He's already there. This guy's got a hell of a reputation. That would have been a fascinating thing. By the way, I have a thought which makes maybe no sense to 99.9% out there, but I got a feeling that Bill Belichick and Nick Saban might figure out a way to work together somehow. They are extremely close friends. Does that make any sense at all?
There's
been
been
rumors
rumors already.
I
What's
saw
that?
some rumor on Twitter about that collaboration being possible.
Okay, well, they stole it from my brain, but that's
They did.
okay.
They did.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Mr. Vrabel. You guys thoughts on that? I mean, there's obviously some kind of an issue with the ownership there. The woman in charge, I can't think of her last name. Is it Strunk or something like that? Anyway,
I
she
believe
is.
so, Amy.
Yeah, Amy has got issues with. She's in a hurry to make changes at times, and it's one of those things where she just made up her mind. You know what? I'm tired of this. Let's move on and get somebody else. It seems like sort of a rash decision. What do you guys think?
I think she's an idiot. I think she did. I think she did him a favor. I think he's going to find a better situation, and I think she's going to find out real fast that Tennessee isn't the prime job that everybody's going to run to take.
No.
Okay, so counterpoint. His GM did no favors. Last two
Absolutely.
GMs. I mean, they drafted a first-round offensive lineman who was lazy, who was not motivated. They drafted 2 or 3 guys who had police blotters that they didn't vet out. They drafted injury concerns. He did them no favors. And with that being said, I'm fine with this firing. I'm not a big Mike Vrabel fan, except for his knowledge of the rules is second to none. He even out-Belichick in a game with consecutive false starts on purpose to bleed the clock. He led to a rule change, but he doesn't know pass defense, and the NFL is all about pass defense. And he's lucky or unlucky that he had Derrick Henry for all these years, because he relied on him so much that the pass game was never developed. I think he's an okay coach. Don't get me wrong, but I'm okay with the fact that they're going in another direction.
Okay, and I think you sort of juggle the fact that he's a player's coach, that guys love playing for him, but the X's and O's sometimes make you scratch your head. So you just never know, where they both fit. But I can tell you one guy who absolutely loves him, and we got to play this, because his former 3-time Pro Bowl left tackle, Taylor Lewan, who I've had on my show a few times, he's a really good guy, was absolutely stunned when he heard the news while he was doing a show with Rich Eisen. The news hit, and they were talking about Michigan, because they were a couple of Michigan grads, and they were excited the next day after Harbaugh gets the W. Let's hear from Taylor Lewan and his shocked attitude.
People is fired?
Yeah,
fired just now.
that just happened. I mean, look at this happening on live.
Whoa.
Stream, Taylor.
That is nuts. I knew there was some clamoring going on the inside. I heard I talked to a couple guys. Obviously, I have some relationships with the Titans, and I was like, as the season was unfolding, to me, it was very clear that Braves was not the problem. The talent, it just wasn't a team that was filled with enough talent to be truly competitive in the NFL at that point. And that was just the reality of the situation. And you could point a lot of fingers, but I didn't think the finger you could truly point at was Vrabel. He's a guy that, damn, Rich, I can't believe this is happening right now while we're talking.
Me too. Honestly.
Oh, my God.
I cannot. He's a coach of the year 2 years ago. They just beat the Jaguars in a game that they didn't have to have.
Yeah.
Except for pride. He's awesome. What the hell is happening?
He's the absolute best is what he is. Under Vrabel, we were at an AFC championship. We were in position to be contenders for a Super Bowl. Now, you've had a lot of changing the guard, right? I left last year. Ben Jones, who was a center for 7 years, left. We had a mishap with Julio Jones. They trade away, which was not that was not what he wanted. You could see it in the war room during the draft. And it's just, you trade away Kevin Byard, and so you're really your only pillar is Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons, of guys that have been there long enough to kind of carry the torch of a defense. I love Amy, and I love that franchise. I think they just made a mistake.
The cupboards are bare there.
There you go. So that tells you a lot from the player's standpoint. That's why I wanted to play it specifically, because they love playing for the guy, whether he's your favorite coach of all time. That's a whole different story. But anyway.
Yeah. So
great take, huh?
I think that was interesting. It was honest. It was obviously, spur of the moment kinds of things. And Vrabel, like I said, I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's the best. But then again, he's really right. Factoring in not just the draft changes, but the three guys that he mentioned, 2 on the offensive line and Kevin Baird, those were big losses. So I do believe he deserves another chance. And I do believe he may thrive. If he stayed in Tennessee, it might've been same old, but this is a chance for a win for him.
Yeah. Maybe Atlanta. I'm thinking that might be a possibility for him. One more thing, and then we're done with Tennessee, because the last time I checked, they have nothing to do with it. But I wanted to play this cut from Derrick Henry, who talked about what it's like becoming a free agent for the first time after his storied run. And it's really fascinating, because he was like, you know what? I don't even know what to think now. Play that.
When that time comes, we'll evaluate and see what makes sense. I ain't getting no younger, so I want a ring. I want to win the Super Bowl. I didn't win state in high school, so I'll tell you, before I leave college, I got to get a national championship. So I'm in year 8 now, so the Super Bowl is definitely my next goal, and that's what I want to get. So however that comes, and however I have to evaluate to be able to get close to that, and that's what we'll do.
Okay, there you go. So interesting, though, that it's a whole new world for Derrick Henry, right? And you got to figure it's 98% chance he's done there in Nashville. So
it does appear that way. It'd be interesting to see who picks him up and for how much.
Yeah. At this stage of his career, it's almost like, could we bring him in week 8 so we could just have the second half of the year and save his body?
His time speed on a touchdown run in either the last week or the next to last week was still near the top of the running back food chain. So he keeps himself in exceptional shape.
No, absolutely. But by the way, he did mention during his presser, though, that he says, I should have scored on that long run touchdown. I got caught. So he's still pretty proud of his body. That's for damn sure. Couple more things on the coaches. What do you think in Carolina? Because I think who the hell wants to be the head coach for a long term under Tepper, the owner? The way, he's screwing everything up right now. It's like you're going to get somebody who just needs a job. That's what
he's the new Dan Snyder, isn't he?
I don't think he's that bad. That's extreme.
They have to work on free agency because they have no draft capital. This is a team that we talked about week after week during the season. Well, they look like they could be in a good spot. And then I would say, but their roster stinks. They're just not good enough. The fact that, in a way, their defense, even last year, was good enough because it was always top 5 to 10. I saw one report, I don't have it in front of me, that they were considered the 4th best defense this past year. But that offense is doing them no favors. And it's not a great job to take if the GM doesn't replenish through the free agent market. The next coach's first year is not going to be any better than this year.
Right. So it looks like Eberflus is going to stay in Chicago. They get rid of his offensive guys, which is a smart move. Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't bring in the right guys. But the question is, who's going to be their quarterback? I think it's highly unlikely Justin Fields is going to be there. Whatever he looked like the second half of the year, which was much, much improved, you get to start the rookie contract clock all over again. Whoever replaces him is going to be a plus in that department for a long time. They don't have Denver or Washington money. So I think that makes a ton of sense. And I expect Caleb Williams to be there. What do you think?
Cris, you go first.
Yeah. If I were them, I might trade out of that pick and just pick up some more draft capital. I'm not sure I want to screw with Caleb Williams. But again, I've mentioned it before. I'm no judge on quarterbacks. I just don't like that guy for some reason.
Well, it doesn't even have to be him. I mean, there's 3 other guys you could pick too. If you just want a rookie,
you can't get away with skipping over him. That'd be like that's like skipping over Michael Jordan in the draft. Are you going to?
Yeah, but you would. You don't like him.
You're going to Sam Bowie it?
Yeah. I would keep him, and I would get an extremely valuable veteran quarterback behind Fields, because I don't know if he could go 17 weeks. Whether that be Ryan Tannehill, or you get a Joe Flacco type, or an Andy Dalton, whatever the case may be, you get somebody who could be a team player, mentor, and also figures to play a little bit if Justin Fields gets hurt. You trade down in the draft, you get another first round next year, you get another second round this year, you get an offensive lineman starter as part of the deal. Remember, they got, DJ Moore last year, and he led the team in receptions. Now you get another starter as part of the draft. And then you draft Marvin Harrison with the 3rd or 4th pick, whatever you have. So you have an offensive line starter. You have Marvin Harrison. You have a backup quarterback who's a veteran in the NFL. And you still have 3 or 4 more picks in the first 2 rounds.
Yep. And the Bears ownership group is online for you, Ron. They want to talk to you. Ask if you're willing to pay for Justin Fields moving forward and not a rookie quarterback.
No, what they should be asking me is if they're willing to pay me for all the draft mistakes that they've made to correct them.
No, they don't have that much money.
Well, it looks like they might be able to bring back Cliff Kingsbury from Thailand. Washington's interested in him, supposedly.
Oh, that's real smart.
Yeah.
I thought you said Daniel Snyder was gone.
I know.
How stupid
Bet the
would
overs.
that be?
Bet the overs.
It's unbelievable.
So let's get to Super Wild Card Weekend.
Saturday doubleheader, Cleveland at Houston. CJ Stroud looking like a 10-year vet out there. Joe Flacco, 39 years old next week, guys. You know that he's actually older than D'Amico Ryans? I love that. Anyway, so your thoughts on this game. Can CJ Stroud and company do enough in this one? The last time they lost to Cleveland, Stroud wasn't there. He missed the game because of a concussion.
So I had this question on another show, and I've had this question a couple of times. So I'm going to pose it to Cris.
Okay.
What do you care at all? And we may have covered it a little bit on Tuesday, but let's cover it again. Do you care at all that Stroud's a rookie in this game?
Just and a little bit. I just feel that he's had the playoff game was last week. He got the pressure game behind him. He demonstrated many times throughout the course of the season that he could handle high leverage situations.
Yep.
I don't really worry about that in the least. I worry more about the coaching issue and the first time coach in this situation. And is he going to utilize Stroud as well as he can, and is he going to make the right moves? Because I think there's a coaching disadvantage in this game. It was odd how the coaching was last week and how they handled Stroud. What are they going to do differently this week? But that's my major concern. Is there is probably a coaching mismatch here.
Okay, yeah, I think the game boils down to, can Houston play better defensive wise against the pass? Because this was just 2 weeks ago, right? When Joe Flacco was there and threw for 360 or 380 yards, threw interceptions, which we know he does. He does not take sacks, which is an interesting development. 8 sacks in 5 games for Joe Flacco, and Cleveland was sack prone with Watson and all the other quarterbacks that they had. So if they're not going to get to Joe Flacco, are they going to shore up their pass defense?
Yeah. Well, and Russell puts this up. I was just about to say, I think it's just as much important for that Cleveland defense to show what they could do against CJ Stroud as well, though, and they haven't faced him yet. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And Denzel Ward got hurt in practice, the corner, yesterday. I don't know if he's a go. He's limited with the knee thing, so that doesn't help their cause.
Well, it will be interesting because, there's been much talk made about Cleveland being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde home and road. And there's a lot of things that Cleveland does not do well on the road that they do very well at home. They give up, bigger plays, they do some things well. Don't get me wrong. Overall, they're still pretty good on the road. But there's a lot of differences. So as far as the first meeting, when you've got a team there and they're missing their leader and they fall behind and maybe there's a loss of enthusiasm and such, and you're playing a team of that quality and you just aren't in the right mindset, you can get a result like that. I just don't think they'll be going into this game with that same attitude in the least. They know they're going to have to show up.
Yeah. Is this spread still 2.5 or 3, or what is it?
Trending down.
Trending down. Okay. I think that makes sense. And I think the spread made sense. I think Cleveland should be a small favorite, but it's a total toss-up game. And something that I haven't heard anybody talk is the Cleveland kicking situation. They lost their kicker.
Yeah, they're in trouble there.
They brought in Riley Patterson, just another guy serving Slurpees at 7-Eleven before that. So will be interesting.
It's confirmed. Alabama has a new coach.
All right. Well, then take him off the list for
Riley
Seattle.
Patterson was a decent kicker at Memphis. I know he's bounced around in the NFL.
Yeah, he's been inconsistent.
But this is a dome type situation. He could be playing in other stadiums this week that are much tougher.
Oh, you think? Yeah, well, there'll be some stadiums this week where the kicker doesn't even make the trip because they're not going to need him. And we'll get to that one next. So bottom line, who you got in the Houston-Cleveland game, guys?
I favor Houston. I worry about it a little bit. I think it's a very teaser-friendly game. Why bother to take +2 at this point? I see a 1.5 out there now.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think this line's going to come down some, but I can see reasons why Cleveland, I think that this is going to be tough for Houston. They should win it, but, just intangibles kind of tell me kind of be cautious here. But I think at the very worst, Houston will keep this close. So I feel comfortable in the teaser range.
Yeah, I could see either result. I would also slightly lean Houston. I think this is one you got to monitor in game. I hate to do that because now we're talking about in-game strategies that were useful, incredibly useful week 18, and they've always been useful week 18, but I don't know if I want to expand the energy to do this on a week-to-week basis. But when you have just one game going on at a time, it's a little bit easier. And I would really like to see what the offensive game plan is for Houston before jumping in too much.
I'd throw it deep that first play again.
I'm really fascinated to see C.J. Stroud against Cleveland's D. It's a hell of a matchup when you think about that. It really, that's going to be fun to watch. And speaking of watch, I don't know, maybe 10 people in the world will be watching the next game, unless you hang out with peacocks. I don't know who has that, but good luck. I should say Miami at Kansas City. The weather, we're going to do back-to-back weather games. I'm already getting cold just thinking about this. This is outrageous. It's going to be about a low of -8, and now I'm hearing even lower than that. And wind chill like 25 to 30 below zero. Not a lot of wind. If there was wind, your head would fall off.
They just gave out more alerts saying that they expect -30 degrees, and you absolutely have to take extra precautions. It will be very, very cold.
Yes.
I'm going to wear an extra sweater in the house.
So let's just say, how about running game is going to matter a little bit in this one? What do you think, guys?
I would think both teams are going to stack the box. Miami's a little bit better at defending the run. Kansas City's Pacheco runs hard nose. Miami's runner, their lead runner with Mozart not at 100%, is more of a don't let him out in space because he could take it to the house kind of guy. I'll just have to see, which team functions better as a unit of 5, not individually, but as a unit of 5, and keeps their assignment under frigid conditions.
Yep.
I'm
Well-
feeling a little bit better. I had to come in on this game and with Miami, but I didn't play them straight. I teased them too, and even on teasers, I was getting a little bit nervous with all the injuries and such. But the more I think about it and I get a proper perspective, this game should stay tight. It just really should stay tight regardless. I probably lean toward Kansas City winning this game, but I think the line's getting a little pricey out there. If you miss Kansas City at the earlier lines, I don't know why you would want to get involved unless the line came back down. I do like Kansas City to advance. I thought that they were great value for the AFC. I think there's a pathway for them to do some damage, but I'm Miami teaser bound on this game.
I could see that. Absolutely.
And I'm going under. I don't care. Every day, it's like watching. It's like watching a ping pong ball up down on this total, because there's groups that love this over.
Really,
couple services love this over, and then I don't know. You open up your eyes and you listen to the weather forecast, and you think logically about what's really going to be able to happen, and you want to bet under. So you're fighting two different things. And I will remind people that cold weather usually does not affect make the totals go under. It makes the totals too low.
Below frigid.
Usually the games are actually going over. So that's not the only reason you would want to bet an under in this game. But these teams already played once. It took it went under, and that includes 2 90-yard plays in the first game. Both of these teams seem, to want some ball control, and there's not going to be any big play unless it's like, goofy defensive touchdowns and breakaways and stuff like that, I think. So I look for the game to go under too.
Okay. Well, one thing is, I know you got something to say there, Ron. Let's first go to Miami's head coach, Mike McDaniel, who is actually embracing the fact of this frigid, ridiculous 30 below stuff, because it could be historic, and he loves being a part of that. Cris, go for it.
Absolutely it is. No one likes being cold. That's why we have temperature control. However, it does make it the moment bigger when you know that that's a absolute fact that it's going to be frigid. What if as a team you find a way to it not affect you? That to be able to go and do athletic performance in that weather, it takes will. That will comes from a passion that's deep down, that has been derived, why guys even started playing the game, that you're unlocking. It galvanizes people. So it's about the team part of it. It's about the doing something that's difficult inherently that motivates you as a competitor, I think. And we have a lot of competitors on our team, so I think the places that teams have to go to execute in those type of situations that that are hard, I think that's what kind of makes them stand out in history, because you get a lot of cool spirited effort by people, doing things that a lot of people would struggle to do.
So that one of the things that he brought out was, it is sort of historic when you think of it. Now, the game could turn out to be the biggest dud of all time, but when you think of the cold weather and the Ice Bowl and some of the famous games that have been played, he's saying, hey, I sort of love being a part of this, even though, guess what, Dolphins, you screwed up. You should have been home. It's 81 degrees in Miami, and you had your chance. What do you think, Ron?
There's two ways of looking at it. Number one, he's right. It is a team mindset. And variables such as weather that none of these teams have seen maybe in their lifetime, because on the playing field, because these are extraordinary conditions that can change matters. There's no reason to believe that, since they both play under the same conditions, that Kansas City won't drop the ball 3 or 4 times and blow it. You almost, if you want to handicap this game from a pure handicapping standpoint, you'd rather not have extreme weather conditions for either team. I like Miami, and Russell and Hector, they've heard me say this already a couple of times. The fact that I like Miami, it's just a terrible spot for them. 6 days since their last game, blowing a 14-7 lead, watching Kansas City, who had a tremendous schedule disadvantage for week after week after week, suddenly have a bye week last week because they were locked into this game, to get everybody back on the same page, to get everybody, in rhythm about catching the ball and who, what are the right receivers to throw to, and making sure all your defensive players are sharp. I took Kansas City early, and I took them at 3. I took them at 3.5. And I'm worried about the conditions affecting play in general. But as far as what they're playing this week, after that game from Miami, after that rest by Kansas City, everything points to Kansas City for me.
Yep. And I see what Hector says. And you know what? Normally I would agree with you, Hector, as far as any coach's spin. I totally disagree with you this time. That's the reason I played this. But if they lose by 20, then you're right, then I'm not. So, I mean, obviously, there could be some key turnovers here just due to the cold and may have nothing to do with the actual quality of play. So who knows?
I think what people fail to remember is that when you're getting down to this temperature range, this is not going to be any fun for the Kansas City players either. And actually, there's kind of like the law of diminishing returns, so to speak, where it's actually more unexpected for them. They're supposed to be able to adjust better, and deep down inside, they're going to be freezing their butts off and not feeling as well. And the temperature difference isn't going to be that big for the Miami players because it's already going to be miserable no matter what. So
right. Well, I think the key here is above everything is the Miami health. On defense and offense, you just got way too many guys either out or they're playing. And if you have to play hurt in this game, I hope it's really, really, really cold enough where you can't feel what hurts. So you're going to have to, you're not going to have to ice anything. You're already going to be there.
The injuries came up at a bad time. And again, they only have 6 days. They played on Sunday. This game is Saturday night. The whole thing is just unfortunate for Miami, but maybe the weather, maybe some weird bounce happens. Obviously, if I'm on Kansas City, I hope it's all a willpower game. And Patrick Mahomes is the better run threat. He's not afraid to go 4 carries, 27 yards. That's very much in his DNA to get whatever he can get. Tua is going to be limited by staying in the pocket a little bit more.
Yep.
What do you think about them not practicing?
In the cold, you mean?
In the cold.
I wouldn't practice in the cold, but then I would probably freeze over by the 3rd minute of the first quarter. So that doesn't count. I
don't think it really matters because you can't practice for 30 below zero weather. You can't. It doesn't make any sense. So you're going to go out there and you say, oh, I feel cold today, and now I'm ready. I mean, you're not going to be ready for it. So I don't think it matters in this case. We're not talking, like 18 degrees. This is just ridiculous weather. So we shall see. And speaking of ridiculous, let's go to Sunday where Buffalo, I don't know. What are they saying? 65 mile an hour winds now? I mean, what the hell is going on there? How do you play football in that?
I hopefully run, punt, run, punt, run, punt, because I had the under.
Smart move. Did you get it early before it moved?
I have it at higher levels than it is now. So
what did you get in? What's the earliest number?
I think 39.5 was my best number.
And what is it now? Most places?
34.
I see a 33. Yeah, there's a 33 out there, but it's mainly 34s.
Yeah, 33 and 39.5. There's an unbelievable middle sitting there, baby. That's all I could say. It's pretty damn obvious with neon Las Vegas lights all over that thing. Hey, look, you get up to that kind of wind situation. I guess they're expecting several inches of snow as well. So with gusts, and maybe if the snow is in your face, hey,
What's
Mason
an inch and a
Rudolph.
half an hour between friends?
Yes. And there's some chatter or something that they're going to move the game to Cleveland. Who the hell's going to drive to Cleveland in this weather to see that game? There might be 12 people there. No, this makes no sense. Just play it. And Mason Rudolph, good luck. Minka Fitzpatrick is supposed to play, so that's good news. But outside of that, no TJ Watt. I see very little chance unless Mr. Josh Allen turns the ball over again, and then you got yourself a ball game.
Well, I think Pittsburgh's going to find a very tough road in this game. Their offense looked better than it is, just because they face some teams where they could run the ball and get a little offense, but they're not going to be able to run the ball against Buffalo. That's going to change the dynamics of what they're going to be able to do. They've been able to develop players so that J.J. Watt sitting out isn't as catastrophic as it was in previous seasons. And as you mentioned, they're getting Fitzpatrick back, and that should be a help. But so yeah. I see it as I like the Buffalo. I like the under. I don't see any surprises coming from Pittsburgh here.
What do you think, Ron?
My one worry with Buffalo is that when do they exhale? They've had 5 games where their season was on the line, and the human body is such that at some point you take a deep breath. We made the playoffs, and now you got to suit it up for another do or die game. The opponent has some negative factors too, so I understand the Buffalo love, and if I had to pick a side, I would pick Buffalo. Instead, I've just chosen to play, every wide receiver and quarterback under in the room as soon as they came out, because
that brings us
would drop.
That brings us back to why I think Kansas City has some unique value, because you're exactly right. I think they'll make it through this game, and then they're going to have to show up again against a Kansas City team that's experienced and a tough nut to crack, and that's going to be a very tough contest for them. So, being able to get Kansas City at 6-1, doesn't look all that bad, considering they should win this week. And as far as I'm concerned, they can't possibly be a 3-point underdog next week. It should be, somewhere around 2. So that's a reasonable chance of winning that game.
Yeah, one of the things I've mentioned is that sometimes you go with power ratings and sometimes you have to suspend them. We had to suspend them a lot during week 18 because Baltimore didn't play its starters. Kansas City didn't play anybody. There were other games like that. When do you bring them back, and how do you bring them back, and how do you address the fact that Miami's down a few starters or that Kansas City had an extra bye week? So power ratings are only one part of the process. You still have to look at the matchups and everything else. And in the Buffalo-Pittsburgh game, I'm willing to use power ratings, but they don't give me an edge. It's really, just the matchup stuff. I think the line is where the line is, and that's where it should be.
Yeah. Well, and we have, Kansas City's offensive line was dinged up too, aren't they?
Kansas City's line, I think they're in really good shape.
No, I think they're okay because of the basic, as Ron put it, bye week at the Chargers last week. So no, I think they're okay. The one team that might be laughing today, even though they should be embarrassed, is Jacksonville. They say, well, we screwed up the entire season, should have been in the postseason, but if we missed a game that we wanted to miss, this is the one. So they get to watch it on television and say, okay, good luck, Pittsburgh. You get to freeze your asses off.
No, actually, Jacksonville would have played Cleveland.
Yeah, Jacksonville would have been at home.
No, I know. I'm just saying,
point.
though, because the only reason Pittsburgh's in there, that. Anyway, the other thing, Josh Allen's 4-1 at home in the postseason, which is impressive. And again, if he doesn't turn the ball over, they should win this game. Bottom line. And how much passing is he really going to do with that win? It's going to be a lot of short stuff. You got to figure, right?
Well,
Yeah,
they're
we'll
betting
see.
up Kansas City now a little bit as we speak.
Really? What's it at now?
It's almost a 5.
Wow. Boy, that
This
is
is what
up there.
happens when we talk.
Yep.
Yep.
And I guess nobody cared about what Mike McDaniel said, so they're going against Mike McDaniel. All right, so we got the Bills and the wins out of the way. Now the game that a lot of people seem to be chattering about, the underdog, the Packers at the Cowboys. The pressure is on Dak. The pressure's on Mike McCarthy. The pressure's on everything because they're America's team that never wins anything. So what do you guys think? Jordan Love, his first playoff game, and just a bunch of kids. I don't even think they know any better about pressure. They're just going to go out there, have some fun, sling it around, and see what happens.
Yeah, there's nothing more dangerous than a team with that's playing with house money. They weren't supposed to be there. I don't think there's much pressure on Green Bay other than to just have fun and do the best they can. And meanwhile, you're looking at a what would be considered an utter disaster if Dallas were to lose this game. You're potentially going to can McCarthy. McCarthy's facing his old Green Bay team that he would be even more humiliated to lose to in this situation. So I think there is a lot of pressure on Dallas, but I think that they can handle it. And I
they should.
I think they're the much better team. I think Love was able to face a lot of weak defenses toward the back half of the season and padded some stats, which also gives him confidence, though. I think they've got a great future. I just think Dallas is the better team here at home in this situation.
Yeah, well, Love does have 18 TDs to 1 pick in the last several weeks. So it's whoever he's facing, he's doing things right, and he's turned it around big time. It's all about the pass rush and the pressure to me for what Dallas should and could do to Jordan Love, and we'll see how that goes, Ron.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways to look at this game. I don't think Jordan Love is going to change his game planning or Green Bay going to change his game plan. They like to throw the ball downfield. They like to stretch the field. And Dallas is a risk-reward pass defense. They'll go for the interception. They'll get burned a few times. And I think Dak Prescott I don't know this for a fact. Maybe I'm making this up, but I think Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback at home. We know they went 8-0. We know they've had games, even in the playoffs, where he's been nearly perfect. So there's the potential that whatever Green Bay does won't be good enough if Dak is playing his game. And he's got CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Brandon Cooks has been a much bigger part of the offense recently. Ferguson at tight end is contributing. Pollard has lasted the whole season, even without help this year. His yards per carry is down because he's having to do more, but it's a diversified offense. And that's why I think it's going to be high scoring. I want to say this, what Cris said, there's enormous pressure on Dallas. And if things don't go right at the beginning, you could see McCarthy make a mistake or two.
In what respect?
Play calling, decision making. Should I go for it on third down? Should I go for it on fourth down? Am I making a spur of the moment kind of thing where he's not thinking correctly because now he's in a ball game?
Okay. What do you think, Cris?
I think he's a little Jim Campbell-esque where he does some things well, but you don't want him making those in-game decisions.
Yeah.
All right. So do you think his job's on the line if he loses this game?
Yeah, bad loss. He's gone, I think.
A bad loss? Well, any loss is a bad loss. Yep. He doesn't have to get blown out, right? I mean, you're at home. You're expected to win. You're more than a touchdown favorite. And but again, what are you going to do? The guy's won 12 games every year there. What's going to be better than him? Who are you going to bring in?
Vrabel?
I don't think they would fire him without having an agreement in place. So you wouldn't hear a right away firing, in my opinion. You would have Jerry Jones test the waters, look around, and so on. And if he had somebody in mind, then that would be the excuse to do it.
Right. Well, Belichick is an interesting thought there from Tom, and that's been thought of. But I think he fits better in Philly if Sirianno loses his job. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. Bottom line, guys, what's your biggest play on this Cowboys-Packers game?
Mine is the only play I have on the game is the over.
Over?
There you go.
Over? Okay.
And you,
I
Chris?
think Chris disagrees.
No, I teased Dallas. I teased Dallas.
So you got a -0.5 or something?
Yeah, just need him to win the game.
Okay, just win, baby. All right, and let's go to the game that really is the only game that matters to Chris this weekend. The Lions, the Rams, Goff against Stafford. Hey, look, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I can't believe how Jared Goff, I remember seeing him the first couple of weeks he was in camp with the Rams. I covered the team pretty closely then. And interesting guy to talk to. Really nice guys, a little soft-spoken. The room appreciated him. They got to enjoy him, but he didn't look confident. He got happy feet, especially the first couple of years as a rookie, as a kid out there in the games. And I think he has adjusted well. There were times that the first season we said this guy has no chance to be that good. And he is a lot better than that. So what are your thoughts on this game, guys? And the return of Stafford? We'll be hearing from Matthew in a moment to Motown.
You left out one angle that has no bearing on the game, most likely, but Carson Wentz is in the building. And you
that's
have
important.
Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, which were the two quarterbacks taken 1-2 in that draft.
Okay. It could be Stafford could get knocked out early. It could be that matchup.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there. It's not so much for me that it's Goff against Stafford. It's Goff and McVay because they had the exit meetings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They had, they made that trade and so on. Stafford, it's not Stafford versus Goff. It's Stafford versus the return to Detroit and the fans and everything. That's going to be a fascinating dynamic as well. So from Chris's perspective, I'm interested in what he thinks about the quarterbacks and the scenario that they're in Detroit.
I guess what's painfully repeated is that supposedly McVay knows Goff inside and out and upside down. And well, if that's the case, he probably wouldn't have been so enthusiastic to get rid of him if he wasn't able to utilize him. I mean, it's been proven that Goff can succeed and do okay. But McVay wasn't able to bring that out of him. So there was a failure in understanding there, obviously, to some degree. I mean, I'm not sitting there saying Goff is the superstar, but he is going to get a huge contract here in the offseason. But I can see this game going any direction. I honestly really can.
Me too.
But it very well could go the route of more of like a Denver style game where they played, where if they get that running game going, and it's successful, the Lions are going to just grind that out over and over and over and eat up clock and keep that defense on the field and tired. And that could be an issue. And Stafford's playing much, much better. If he's not throwing those BBs, though, there's probably an in-game prop. He'll throw a pick or two. You can pretty much tell when he's right on target and when he's kind of like,
Well, even when he's not on target, when he is on target, he's still probably going to throw a pick. I mean, that's just who he is.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
But if you throw one pick in this game, it's not the end of the world. No. And it also depends field position and all that, blah, blah, blah. But to me, it's really about pressure on the quarterbacks. Jared Goff is just he still doesn't handle pressure. He never will. I mean, there's no quarterback who likes pressure, but he doesn't have the athleticism to do stuff that a lot of other quarterbacks do, and he's screwed back there if the pressure is too much. But will the pressure be on Matthew Stafford and his insides in this game?
I don't think so.
I don't either. But let's hear from him what he was asked about expectations in front of the old fans.
not expecting anything, to be honest with you. I was asked this question a couple times, just by friends and family, and I think the biggest thing for me is just go experience whatever that experience is going to be. I understand, what the people of Detroit and what the city of Detroit meant to me in my time and my career, what they meant to my family. I hope they feel that back, but at the same time, I'm not a stranger to the situation and understanding that I'm the bad guy coming to town. I'm on the other team, and they don't want success for me. So whatever happens. I'm going to go experience it, play the game. Once the ball's snapped, man, let's go. Two good football teams, go compete and see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And by the way, the fact that the Lions haven't had a playoff win since 1991, Matthew Stafford is as well aware of that as anybody is. So he wants to keep it that way. What do you guys have on this game?
Well, I have nothing.
Ron, really? We have the over, right?
No, not in this game.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No. I lean the under, but I noticed that it's going up, and it's going up at locations that.
How much has it gone up from the start?
I'm not sure what it opened.
I think it opened at 51, didn't it?
I think it opened higher than that.
51.5.
51 and a half, 52. I see Westgate is up to 52 and a half.
Okay.
And so that's kind of an indicator, sharp book, going off market a little bit, because the rest of the market is at 51 and a half and 52. So it just perks my ears up a little bit. I have the Lions here on the money line. I have them in a teaser. I think that they'll win this game. In all honesty, they're supposed to. I'm not sure what's going on with this Laporta issue.
Yeah.
The other concern is the backup tight end. Mitchell's out. So that's not going to be good if Laporta can't go. I have a feeling Laporta is probably going to go.
Well, he said he's optimistic, whatever the hell that means, right?
I think he'll end up suiting up, and they'll put him in situations that are like red zone situations, so to speak, where it's not going to be long field type situations and long drive situations. I think that they know he's going to be limited, and that there's going to be specific instances where they're going to be able to use them. And then don't be surprised if they do, some, unusual play on a 2-point conversion or something like that. If you see any of the players cozying up to the referees before the play, that might just alert you that there might be something going on.
Yeah. At some point, and this is what I in an article, at some point, Detroit has to feel they're at the big boy table. Let's stop all this nonsense. Now the other team should be trying plays against us. We're better than that now. And when Dan Campbell learns that, the team will be better off for it.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. The other opinion that I have in this particular game is that all the criticism that the Lions got for how come you're not running Gibbs? How come you're not running Gibbs? This is why they're not running Gibbs. They're in the playoffs. Gibbs was healthy all year. He's a rookie. In the college, even if you're at Alabama, you're not playing 17 games and then an 18th game. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the feature back in this game, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I thought the Lions used him perfectly.
Well, and their defense has been getting better. Dallas wasn't able to run up and down the field on him, and then Dallas at home not being able to do that kind of shows a little bit of improvement. As Hector mentioned, the defense is healthy now, and Hutchinson, he's got this spin move now almost down pat that the other players are commenting on, that is just really tough to defend, where he just bounces off the defender, spins in, and he's putting pressure on, and he's getting sacks now. So it's a big concern. He draws a lot of attention. The issue is they got to run the ball. They can't put it on Goff. The offensive line is going to have to do their job. And fortunately, they have one of the top 2 offensive lines in the NFL. Just do your job.
Yeah. Do your job against Aaron Donald. That's all you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, one more time, let's give major kudos to Sean McVay. This team is going into the playoffs, winning 7 of their last 8, and their only loss was to Baltimore, which they could have and should have won that game. So, I mean, it's unbelievable.
I agree.
Nobody is really talking that up. I think it's the best coaching job of the year in that respect, because he's got so many no names. I mean, again, name me a couple of guys outside of Aaron Donald on their defense. It's really special, you know? So anyway, and that's an offensive coach too. So go figure. All right, let's go one more game, boys. Unless you got any more thoughts on this one?
It's good
No,
enough.
I can see anything happening though. I think Detroit has the confidence. I do think the pressure is kind of on them a little bit. And I think even unless they get blown out, I don't see it as a complete and utter failure. I think the Rams are, as you mentioned, extremely well coached. They've got some excellent players. They're on a roll. I don't think it would be an embarrassing loss like the Dallas loss, unless they were to get blown out. So.
Yeah. No, there's no way anybody picked them to even think about the playoffs this year. So there's no embarrassing loss here, whatever happens. And by the way, is the line pretty much stuck at 3.5 the whole time, or is it?
No, 3.
When did it come down?
It just went up for one day. It keeps on. It keeps on going up to like a very
teetering?
strong 3, and then they bet it down, and then it builds back up again.
Got it. Okay. All right. And now Monday night, the Eagles and the Bucks. You got Baker Mayfield has got an ankle thing going, and I don't know what the hell the latest was on. Did he practice today? Anybody know? Because he didn't practice yesterday. Ankle and ribs for him. He looked he was hobbling the whole game, the last game, just trying to get off the field after drives was not easy. So, boy, I feel for him. A tough situation here. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think Nick Sirianni's job is in major jeopardy. I really do. This is an owner that has already done this before with Doug Peterson. He doesn't give a damn. It's like, you know what? I think you've lost your team, and we're about to lose you if you don't do something impressive and fast.
I call it the Matt Patricia effect. Whenever you put Matt Patricia in charge of anything, this is what's going to happen. So, just bad. What were you going to say, Ron?
They went 11-6 by Pythagorean theorem principles. They did not earn their 11-6. Chris and I have talked about it all year. We kept waiting for Philadelphia to win by margin, and it never happened. And finally, we realized that this is Philadelphia 2023.
Exactly.
Forget about last year.
Right.
And, I have no feelings that Nick Sirianni is a weird guy. He started off in his career about gardening and fertilizing and all that other stuff. And the next thing you knew, they had huge, tall trees that made it to the Super Bowl. But in this, I understand we're living in a different world now with mobile and social media and everything like that. But for a guy to go to the Super Bowl one year and then go 11-6 and lose his job the next, I would find that incredibly stupid.
Yeah, no, I get it. But the question is, has he been able to adjust at all? You have to totally forget that they were 10-1 this year. I mean, that was like 3 seasons ago. Right? It really is. And we talked about how a bunch of those wins were like, how the hell did they win that game? Or they should have won easily and they barely won at all. So, it's such a weird season.
Well, I will say this. You talked about Baker Mayfield. Jalen Hurts and his wide receivers are all in bad shape.
Yeah, AJ Brown, we don't know what's going on.
I'm almost I won't play doctor, but I'd be surprised if Jalen Hurts didn't have at least one surgery in the offseason. I think he's been playing hurt for a long time, and they just haven't told us about it.
And that is a factor as far as the Sirianni future, too, because obviously the team knows that if that's the case, and he'll get the benefit of the doubt on that one. So, anyway.
What do we make out of this A.J. Brown situation? Because that is awfully goofy.
We don't know. There's no way
I
to
never
know.
heard this. This is the first time I'm seeing this. So
Well, I saw this morning. I heard about it a little bit. Yeah, something's going on. We don't know what it is. It's all speculation. But if he didn't show up at practice today, now remember, it is a Monday night game, so there's time, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not important he showed up at practice today, but it's not good any way you look at it.
No, that does not look good.
No, not
this
at
whole
all.
game is just really rough because, bookmaker has gone to a very strong 3 now on this game. So that's a bad sign. As a Tampa Bay backer, a lot of people understand the values on Tampa Bay here, but there's something that stinks because so many people like Tampa Bay, and that line's getting stronger, Philly. And we don't really, as you mentioned, we don't know what kind of situation Baker is in reality. So, and now we're looking at Philadelphia. They've got their issues. We know Hurts is throwing today, looked okay, but I think he's got to throw with a splint. And
yeah, this finger here has really been hurting him a little bit. So what are you going to do about that, right?
I don't know.
That middle finger, baby, that hurts a lot. It hurts just looking at it. Look, to me, what's the over-under on carries for DeAndre Swift in this game? 23.5, maybe?
I don't even know if there's a number for him. There
No,
were.
I'm making up a number is what I'm doing.
There weren't any Philly numbers up for a while because we didn't know what wide receivers would play.
Yeah, it
Jalen
makes
Hurts
sense.
hadn't practiced all week. The whole deal with that. And I agree completely with Cris. If you look at power ratings, there's really no way that Tampa should be a 3-point dog in this particular game. And you got the injuries and so on. Something is really fishy there. And I took the 3 points, and it was a solid 3 and still is pretty solid because I figured what if we get Hurts news or what if we get AJ Brown news or whatever? How could it possibly go higher than 3? I could always get off it if everybody played and stuff. I just thought I had a live number that I could play around with, but it's sticking there and it has me scared. There's no question.
Yeah, well, look, the Baker stuff is, the number is beautiful, but if Baker's not healthy, Philly should take care of business. They really should. I mean, that's just the bottom line there.
Why?
By the way, why?
Because when has Philly taken care of business in the last 5 weeks?
Absolutely. But I'm saying you'll be dealing with a backup quarterback with Tampa in a playoff game. That's what I mean in that respect. Or with a less than 80% Baker, which is not good. By the way, it's supposed to rain Monday night, and some winds in the teens. So we'll see if that's a factor at all. Again, I give the ball to DeAndre Swift a lot if I'm Philly in this game.
There's no running back props yet.
Well, I believe that.
That I saw.
Yeah.
But do you agree?
It's a wait and see game. So you got to, it's Monday night, like you said, and we're dealing with Friday afternoon. There's still a lot of news to be talked about.
Yep. And did you do anything on this game, or you're off the game so far, Cris?
I have Tampa Bay in teasers. I think this game's going to be tight. I'll probably go both directions. I anticipated this line going down.
So you teased them to 10?
Well, no, I've got Tampa Bay at 10 and 13, 10. But I anticipated this line coming down to Philadelphia, maybe -1, 1.5. I don't think we're going to see that. So,
no. Well, again, I think if Baker was healthy, you would see that. But because there's just uncertainties here.
Who the hell is the backup in?
You know what? I just thinking about that. I guess we'll have to look that up real fast. I can't remember.
The guy Baker beat out, I can't remember if he went to Florida, University of Florida, but he never got or Florida State. He never really
Rex
got
Grossman.
the job. Yeah, not quite Rex Grossman.
Hey, that's Mr. Super Bowl Rex Grossman.
Super Bowl Rex Grossman, yeah. So question for you, Cris. Oh, Gabbert.
No, it's not Gabbert, is it?
I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
I thought Gabbert was Jacksonville. Who's the guy?
While Ted looks it up, although we trust Hector, Cris, the total has roughly been 43.5, 44 even, I think, in this game. And this was the total that I was the most off on. I did not expect it to be listed this high. What did you think about the opening total, or did you think about it at all?
I think especially with the fact that Tampa Bay's had no offense recently, but they've also, that game against Carolina was a all hands on deck type situation. Carolina, showed up, and Carolina does not have a horrible defense. So,
right.
And you factor that in with Baker being dinged up, there's, an explanation for it. So, but the real issue with this total is how poorly the Philadelphia defense is played.
Trask, that's the guy.
Yeah,
that's the Florida guy.
I was about to say, I looked it up. Yeah, that's the Gators. Florida. Trask.
Yeah. I said Florida. I just couldn't remember his name.
Right,
and
right.
Thanks to the chat, we've got the name there.
And John Wolford is the former Rams backup, is the third stringer.
Okay.
But this Eagles defense, we know that they had this bad run since they were 10-1. Yeah. And you would expect their defense to be horrendous, but they've reached the bottom 5 cumulative for the entire season, not just for that stretch. So I think that they went 7 drives in a row of giving up touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, or 7 out of 8 recently. I mean, when you have a defense like that and you let another team get into rhythm, that could be dangerous.
And their O-line, by the way, even some of the guys have talked about it on the team, has not been, as fantastic as it was the last couple of years either. So you got that. You got a banged up Jalen Hurts with an O-line that's not doing their job, and they're getting old in a couple of spots. This is not a good spot for them. But again, if Baker's not 100%, even close to 100% healthy, and there's no way he is, interesting matchup there.
Yeah, I really worry about it. I think this Tampa Bay team's underrated. If he was healthy,
yeah,
exactly, I would be just shipping it. I have a feeling he's not hurt; he's injured.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be getting 2.5 if he was 100% healthy either.
No,
right? I mean, this would be like maybe 1 or pick 'em. So anyway, but that's not the case. So, bottom line, did you took the points, Ron, at 3 though, right?
Yeah, it's been most of the week a solid 3.
But it opened at 2.5, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Okay. So, but do you think it's going to come down a little bit, or?
I still think it's going to come down, and if it doesn't, I'll be even more worried because I don't see how Philly could be public based on what they've been doing lately. And Tampa's the home team, perceived good defense.
They are healthy. Other than Baker, they are fully healthy.
And I see our buddy Fuster Cluck says Baker's running and throwing at practice today. So it's good to know that one of our viewers was there watching him. We got our scouts out there on the field. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great news. I mean, let's hope. Again, if he's running, that's the main thing I'm worried about, not the throwing part, because he was limping all over the damn place the last game.
Yeah, advice I would say is certainly be on this game in game and take a look at what's going on, because the health factor, the game plans and stuff like that, be prepared to pivot in the first, second quarter.
And it is, again, just like we talked about with A.J. Brown, it's still only Friday, which is good news for Baker. An extra day helps.
Yeah, that extra day is going to help for sure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that's our super wild card weekend. Overall, are you going to be watching the game tomorrow night in Kansas City, or are you going to let peacocks go crazy all over your backyard and you could care less?
Well, I would watch it if it were on, but I'm not. I personally am not going to go out of my way.
No,
I pay $5 a month. I pay $5 a month for 20,000 stations and get everything for $5. So I don't care what network it's on.
Do you get Peacock with that?
Everything, $5 a month.
Wow. How is that possible? We need to know your agent.
Just Google IPTV service. There's hundreds of them to choose from.
Yeah, and it's legal?
Yeah, as far as you know.
We got Chevy Chase in the building.
Until they knock on your door, it's all good, right?
Yeah, they'll be knocking on my door.
All right, guys, great job. I'm looking forward to every single matchup here, except for I feel for the Wind in Buffalo. Good luck, boys.
Oh, Ron, you had a bunch of excuses about Tuesday again, didn't you?
My excuse is I might see you on Tuesday. I'll be in Vegas next week.
Oh, we'll do the show from there.
You know, I'm the one that has to answer all this hate mail for the irregular schedules and not being dependable. You know, we had the slogan, same bet time, same bet channel, and you're the one that's always golfing.
That was last year's news.
Or
he doesn't golfing. He wasn't golfing.
Yeah, definitely not golfing, that's for sure. If we could pull it off Wednesday, we'll try to pull it off. Otherwise, we'll just have an extended show, or we'll talk to you guys next Friday.
Absolutely. The Inside Blitz will be on as we get deeper into the playoffs. Love it.
Thanks for joining. Good luck, everybody, this weekend.
Win it, baby. Just win.
Stay warm.